Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, let's see how to run multiple WordPress websites on a DigitalOcean server, on a DigitalOcean droplet. So if you don't have a DigitalOcean account, create one. If you're new to DigitalOcean, I will put a link with $200 of free credit for DigitalOcean. This is for new accounts. If you want to run multiple WordPress websites on a VPS, any VPS, you'll need a control panel, and HestiaCP is a reliable free control panel. That's why I'm recommending it to you. So let's get started with this. First, if you scroll down here, you can download the Ansible files that I'll use. So let me first download the files. If you want to check these for viruses, you don't trust me, and you shouldn't trust anyone online, you can copy the link and then go to VirusTotal and scan the URL. But I trust myself, so I'm just going to download it. Open it. Extract here. I'll open the folder, and this is what we have. So I want to open it with VS Code, but first I can open it in Terminal, and I can open it in VS Code. So if I do code dot in that directory, I can open it in VS Code. So we are going to look at this in a moment. So the items that you'll need to edit here, number one is inventory. You'll need to add your server there. And we're also going to edit the playbook. Anything you want to change, you can change here for the Ansible variables. And we also need to change something in the role. So the role I'm using for installing HestiaCP is one you can find on the Ansible Galaxy. I just downloaded it here and edited a few things. Here as well, you'll have the variables that you'll need to edit. First of all, let me deploy a DigitalOcean server, and then we can add an inventory IP there. If you don't have an account, create one. Use the link in the description. Here, I'm going to create one in this demos project. Create a project and select your project from there. You can create a new project. That's the project I want to use here. And I want to deploy a DigitalOcean droplet. So I'll come there and select a droplet. If you want to go further, you can actually create the droplet using Terraform if you want to completely automate everything. But I'm just going to do this manually for today. Maybe in future I'll do so. I'll do another video like that. So create droplets. I will choose London networks default. I'll leave it there. HestiaCP works with Debian and Ubuntu, but this Ansible Play is designed for Debian. So I'm going to select on Debian and then make sure it's Debian 12. Choose a size for your droplet. You can use the basic shared CPU, or you can use dedicated CPUs. So I'm going to go with the shared CPU VPSs. I want to use AMD for this. 2 GB. I'd recommend for a production server, you go with something that's at least 2 GB of RAM. You could use one virtual CPU. It's not a problem. But if you're going to run lots of websites, you should go with something higher, 2 virtual CPUs and above. This seems like the best option for me, and I'm going to go with this. Additional storage, you can add additional storage. This you can do later. Of course, enable backups. Every time you see backups, enable them, because one day something will go wrong. The only thing that will help you recover is your backups. So make sure you enable your backups. So you can go with the weekly backups or the daily backups. So backup window, you can select a period of time where you want the backup, when you want the backup. So for most people, you should probably go with the time when there aren't many people on the site. So maybe there, depending on your time zone, just do a reverse calculation and see which of these time zone will match with when your site is not busy. And then SSH key. So for this, we're going to log in with an SSH key. You can see there, SSH key. So I need to add this SSH key. If you don't have it, create it in advance. So let's come here and I will add a new SSH key. And the SSH key I want to add, I can just get it cat dot SSH tab local tab dot pub. I want to add the public key to my server, Control-Shift-C. So if you're on Windows and you want to follow along, I'm sorry I forgot to mention this earlier, you can follow along. What I'd recommend you do is install VirtualBox and then install maybe an Ubuntu virtual machine and use that to follow along. You can also use WSL. The reason I want you to get VirtualBox is because on VirtualBox you can install a Linux distro with UI, with a GUI, and then you use the desktop environment to install Ansible and follow along easily. That's something you can do, and that's what I recommend you do. VirtualBox is very reliable. For example, when I want to run Kubernetes on my laptop, I usually just run it on VirtualBox VMs. That's why I'm recommending VirtualBox, very reliable. So the name, I'll just call it local. This way I will know which one it is. So I will select, oh, it's already selected. And we recommend these options, add improved metrics. Sure, why not? They're free. So anything that's free, you can add. Database, I don't need that. Finalize the details. Yes, I only need one droplet. And then for this demonstration, I want to use one of my domains. So give me a moment to log into CloudFlare, and then I'm going to add a domain. I'm going to add my domain there as the host name. So give me a moment to log into CloudFlare. Pause. All right. I will use this domain in this demonstration. So let me copy it, and I want to set up one record here, and that record will be for the host name. So let me come here and let's say my host name will be server dot your domain. So whichever your domain is, use that as the host name there. All right, so I can create the droplet, and once I get an IP, I'm going to add an A record for my host name. And you're going to see where that is relevant. There is my IP. Copy the IP. Come back. I will add a record, an A record for my server host name. Server, you can call it whatever, what you used as your host name, that's what you're going to add there. So server, and then I want to unproxy it for now, and then I will save. Once I do that, let's go to our inventory, and here on the inventory file, I will add the IP, Control S to save, and once the playbook runs, the port will have changed to that, and we'll come back and disable that. For now, it's disabled, but later on, we're going to need this if you want to access the server via Ansible again, with Ansible again. Let's look at the things we need to edit. First, let's start with the role. So this is a role that will install HestiaCP. You can find it on GitHub, and you can find it from this. You can just Google that. Google this and you'll find this role on GitHub as well as on Ansible. Let's go to defaults and main.yaml. This is where you need to change various things. So the first thing I want to change, of course, is the host name. Let me get the host name that I've just used on DigitalOcean. Control V. So here, that's the server host name. And then for the admin username, the admin mail, this is for HestiaCP. Change the mail to yours. I'll leave it at sample. Admin password, of course, change that one as well to something that is secure and only known to you. Admin username, change the admin username. There. So Hestia allows you to create an admin username. You don't have to use the default admin by default it is admin. If you want to change it, you can change it. So that's what this is doing here. You can use any unique name there as your admin. For the HestiaCP installation, you can select to install Apache. My server is not that big, so I'm not going to install Apache. I will use NGINX. So there, PHP, we want to install it, and the PHP versions that you want to install, you can list them there, delimited by a comma. So 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, this is going to install these PHP versions, and then named for DNS, MySQL, this will be MariaDB. MariaDB will be installed. Yes. Postgres, I don't need Postgres. Exim, yes. For email, DevCodes, that's for email. You can allow this since my server has 2 GB of RAM. And I'm also going to add swap using this same Ansible. So you can enable Spam Assassin if you're going to run a mail server on this server. If you're not going to run a mail server, you just want to host WordPress only, then you can set this to no, Exim no, DevCode no, Sieve no, Clam AV, this one as well, no or yes, but Spam Assassin definitely no if you are not going to run a mail server. IP tables, definitely we want IP tables for security, fail to ban, Quarter, yes, API, yes, web terminal. If you want to install the web terminal, that is a new shell on HestiaCP, you can install it. And then for the Hestia login port, you can change the port there. So that's pretty much it on this end. Let's look at what we need to change in our playbook. So on the playbook, we just need a new Linux user. If you don't want to use root, you can create a new sudo user, a new admin user for your Linux terminal. So most of this is for Debian initial server setup. So it's going to create a new user password, edit that to make it something secure that is only known to you. SSH port, you can change it to whatever you prefer. The port will be changed. Public SSH key, wherever your key is, make sure you add it here. So this is a public SSH key that will be added for this user, the user you create. And then the server host name, I will change that as well. Control V. Time zone, change your server time zone there. And then the swap. This is going to create a swap file. And since I have 2 GB of RAM, I can actually create 4 GB of swap. Additional packages, these are additional packages that will be installed. Since I'm installing HestiaCP, I have commented that out. There's a different video I did where this was not commented out. Tasks. So let's start with the tasks. And the first one, I'm just going to name them and you can look at them later. So of course, that's going to update the package, upgrade all packages, install additional packages that are listed up there, and then create a new sudo user that you've defined up there. And then configure SSH for the new user. So the SSH key for the new user will be set up, the key that you've linked to up here. Make sure you've linked to it up there. And then set the time zone that you've defined up there. Set the host name. This probably I don't need to do this because DigitalOcean has probably added the host name that I've added. And then create a swap that will go into this include file, but it will create the 4 GB I've defined up there. It will enable auto upgrades, and the auto upgrades, let's look at it. Since I'm installing HestiaCP, I have made things easy for you. So I've already added this file. So this will be uploaded to your server. These items will automatically get updated, and Hestia as well will automatically get updated because I've added the correct origin for you here. If you'll install CloudSec, it will also get automatically updated, but I'm not going to install it, so I can comment that out. Origin, if you install CloudSec, make sure you uncomment that. In my case, I'm not going to install it, so that's why I've commented it out. But anything that comes from Suri, that will be updated. NGINX will be updated as well. That's pretty much it for that. Let's go back to our playbook. Control S to save. This one as well, Control S to save. Come back to the playbook. configure root login. All right, so here you can see that I have disabled this. What's going to happen is it's going to create a file, and that file is going to make sure that password authentication is not allowed on this server. The SSH port will be changed to the port you define up there, and permit root login. You can see I've commented it out because I will still be using root to log in. If you don't want to use root to log into your server, you can remove the £, the comment in front of that line. And then installing HestiaCP, this is going to run the role we've just looked at. And that's it. So I commented this out too. I commented this out because Hestia is going to set up UFW and also install fail to burn. That's pretty much it. I can save. Let's go back to the inventory. I want to make sure that I have the correct SSH key. Okay, this is not correct. Let us get the right path. And I can use this as my private key. So you see, when you use the link to the key rather than the content of the key, it's much easier to share. So in this case, you can't see my key because I'm only sharing the link, the path. Control S, and let's go to the terminal. Let's see if we're in the right directory, ls. All right, so we're in the same directory where all those files are. So I can try and see if I can access my DigitalOcean server. Success. I can ping the server. So let me run our playbook. I'll just run our playbook, Control L, and I will run Ansible playbook, and the playbook is playbook Debian. I can also run it with verbosity. If any issue occurs, maybe it will tell me. So I can run that, and this is going to do everything in our playbook, and this is going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to pause the recording because there's no point of you waiting to see everything as it happens. So I'll pause and come back once everything is complete. So it's essentially complete. You can see the last item here, reboot server. This is not going to be successful because the playbook has changed the SSH ports. So if I was to access HestiaCP, and I will use the port 2083. That's the port we set up. Enter. You can see you can access HestiaCP, and it has also generated an SSL because on CloudFlare we did set up the host name for the server with an A record. That ensured that HestiaCP issued an SSL certificate. Now we can go on to the next step for logging in and then seeing how to set up at least 2 WordPress websites. You can log into your HestiaCP using the details that you set up. So in my case, let me go to the role defaults main.yaml, and here the username was admin default 0. Copy, and that's the one I'm going to use to log into the server. Control V. The password, use the password to log in. Control V, enter, and there you go. HestiaCP is installed. Let's go and look at our services. Click on the gear icon. You'll see that everything we set out to install is installed, and our server is using NGINX and PHP FPM. So the first step is to add a user. Let's add a user. A user we can use for creating websites. So add a user. We'll just call it contact name, user, email. I can use sample email, generate a password. The role, make sure the role is user. Package, we have only one default. So I'm going to save, and we can use this user to create websites. Click there on user. So if you click there, If you click on user and then you click on the user that you've just created, you can add as many websites as you want to host on your Hestia server. Let's add our first website. And our IP is that. Let's copy the IP from DigitalOcean. And I want to add that on CloudFlare. So here, let me add the DigitalOcean IP. Save. And if you want to add Hestia SSL for the main domain, you also have to have the www. And I'm going to add that as a CNAME. So let me just add it as www target use at, and I will save. And I will add that IP address, of course, is that, but it will pick up the right IP. DNS support, just to show you how to add records to CloudFlare. I will save. All right, the first web domain has been added. If you click on it, you can edit it by adding SSL. So hopefully the DNS records I've added here have already propagated. Hopefully I can come back and try to add SSL, use Let's Encrypt, enable automatic redirect, enable strict, and then save. If it doesn't work, DNS is not ready and you just need to give it some time. If it works, DNS has already propagated, which is good, and the SSL will be issued. Nice. The fact that we didn't receive any error, it means that SSL, Let's Encrypt SSL, was issued successfully. At this point, you can do something like installing WordPress. So quick install app, we can install WordPress on that domain. Set up WordPress. Call it whatever you want to call it. Username, WP admin, sure, I'll go with that. Email, I'll just add sample. Password, I'll generate a password and I'll copy it because I will try to log in with it. And then install directory, leave it at default. PHP version, I'll go with PHP 8.3. This is the one they support, but if you want to change it to 8.4, you'll have to go back to the web domain and edit it, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Database, I'll leave this at default. It will be created automatically. And then save. All right, so WordPress has been created and installed. WordPress has been installed on that domain. So if I come back to web and I go to the domain, public access the domain. Okay, this is due to cache. This is due to cache. I had it redirected to that. So let's go to Control Shift. Let us open up a new private window of the Opera browser. And I want to use this to test. We have to test that it's working before we move on to the next step. rwahowa.com. All right, so on a new private window, you can see it's going to WordPress. Now let's log in, WP admin. And the username was WP admin. And the password, what I copied, Control V. Login. Login. So there you go. You have your first WordPress running. If you want to migrate a website, you can just install the WordPress migration plugins. Maybe you have a WordPress backup that you want to bring in here. Install the relevant plugins and then migrate. Just search for migrate and see if we can install a plugin. or rather, let's go to add plugins. Search for migrate, and we can install that, activate it just to check if there's any permission problems. There's no issue. You can install plugins. That's good. All right, so that's your WordPress, your first WordPress installed. So to add a second one, it's just the same process. Okay, so if you wanted to add another WordPress to your Hestia server, what you do is what we've just done, right? But first, let's see some other things you can change for your domain. So click on it to edit it, and then you come here under advanced. You can enable fast CGI cache, maybe for 2 days. And this is good when you have a lot of traffic. It helps to reduce the load on your server. If you want to change the PHP version that is used by any website, just come here and then select the PHP version. You can also create FTP accounts. Save that. So that's how to host multiple WordPress on DigitalOcean using HestiaCP. So as I've said, it's quite easy to add another domain. You just do the same thing. Add the domain. Make sure you go wherever the domain DNS is. In my case, it's CloudFlare. And then you add the IP of your server there. And then once you do that, you come back, issue SSL. Once the domain has been added and DNS is propagated, you come back and you issue SSL, just like I did in the first one. And that's pretty much it, right? I have a long video for HestiaCP, so if you want to watch how to use HestiaCP, I will add the link in the description below. But HestiaCP is a reliable and very lightweight control panel, right? So let's go back to this playbook. You'll see, just as I said, it failed to log in, and the reason is because the port has changed. So now if you want to access your server, your HestiaCP server via SSH, you have to use the port that you set up, port 222. So if you want to log into that server, you log in with an SSH key and that port. All right, so that should end this video. Okay, if you have any question or something that you feel is important that I didn't look at, just let me know. If you also need help setting up this on your server, maybe you don't have the time or you're struggling with it, we can do the setup for you. Or you need something that needs troubleshooting on your Linux server, just contact us. If you don't want to manage your own Linux server, we can help you with that. Bizanosa Expert Care will help you to manage your server. You can look at our pricing there on bizanosa.com. Right, that should end this video. If you have any specific questions about this video or about our services, feel free to let me know in the comments below.